This is my Tiny Bandsaw, which is Michel Uphoff's design that was illustrated and gone through as a number of series articles, details on how to make it on YouTube. I've made mine more or less the same as his. There weren't full details at the time I made it. I just did it from the photographs that or the screenshots that I'd taken off the video and scaled off with a ruler where I hadn't got measurements. But everything is done much as it looks on the video. It works fine. It's a great addition to my workshop, and is better in many ways than the Scheppach German designed portable saw which I've got, which is belt driven and uses the same size of band as this has. This is got 4 rollers in it rather than the 2 that's in the portable one that I've been using, but this has a bigger throat area which would be more helpful. It seems to be powerful enough, but we'll see how we go. I chose to use a different motor and right angle drive than Michel did, so it may well be it's not quite as powerful as his. It's certainly noisier, but anyway, you can judge that for yourselves when I start filming. I've got simple pulse width driver governor in here, which is a Chinese one that's under £10, and it doesn't really need anything more than that because I've got a simple brush motor on the exterior, so it doesn't need any comprehensive electronics that goes with it. This is all in one in a little box here, and it has a digital display which is as percentage of the overall electrical current going to the motor, and I found that if I keep it below 90%, it's a lot quieter than just going for the remaining 10%. And what I'll do now is I'll cut a sample of aluminium that's 4 centimeters by 12 millimeters. I will use a clamp, which is a part of his design, just to hold it in place to save my fingers. And I've made this so that the edge of this support extends far enough this way that I can wind this in. This is a dovetail slot that runs under here right the way through to the back of the assembly, and that's machined by me according to the way he had done it. So if I switch this on now, we'll get it running. And you can see the quality of the cut that it's given me. It's pretty good. And that's reasonably accurate. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. When this is running, you can hear it. The band is not made terribly accurately, so it sort of does this as it's going past, which is a bit irritating. But that's nothing to do with me or to do with the design. It's the making of the band. And if I just put a bit of this in, this is ordinary mild steel. It's 12 millimeters by 20 millimeters. We'll pop that in. Again, I don't have to use a clamp, but it'll just give you an idea of the speed at which it would cut. As you can see, it's not taken long to cut that. And if I take this right out, I can replace the screw cutting or the screw adjusting fence. So I take that right out. I've then got an alignment guide that I can use manually if I choose to. So if I wanted to cut the edge off a strip like this, for example, I can do it by sliding this along here. So you can see it's really just as good as the Scheppach saw that I've got, and I'm very pleased with it. This works great. The various things that I've done have probably made it slightly less good than Michel had for his, and that's in the motor drive. I've got underneath here, I'll move the camera in a minute, there's toothbrushes that brush these belts the belt here and the surface of this pulley to try and remove as much swarf as possible. And I've got a guide here just to hold the swarf back to stop it all spraying everywhere, but it's still, as you can see, produces a fair amount here, and I've done something similar at the back. I'll just clean this up and then turn it round so you can see the back of it. This is the reverse side, and you can see this is the motor assembly, which was, I think, designed for bicycles and electrifying them. And there's a geared arrangement here. You can see that bit sticking out, that's got a gear in it, reduction gear, and there's a pinion straight cut gear in here, straight cut pinion gear. And unfortunately that does make it a bit noisy, but it's very much cheaper than the other arrangements. The way I've done it is I've got a 20-tooth pulley here and another 20-tooth pulley on the drive, and that is running on a tooth belt, an XL tooth belt, and that works fine. It's probably just at the limits of what you'd want to drive in terms of power, but it works okay, and it doesn't seem to jump off. The motor is allegedly, or the whole assembly is allegedly 500 watts, and it says on here 28 amps, but it was nowhere near 28 amps when I checked it with my power supply. The power supply I'm using here is a 24 volt motor, a 24 volt supply, which is encapsulated, so there's no ventilation slots on it, so the swarf can't get into it, and that's for 300 watt supply, and I've found that works perfectly well. The controller will control voltage between 9 and 60 volts at 12 amps, and again that is for a power rating of up to 500 watts, and that's fine, it works well, and it doesn't bog down or anything, and it doesn't seem to have a problem. That's the way I've made mine. It's very different from Michel's, which had got a right angle drive that came out here, which was a very elegant solution but a more expensive motor. I did buy a more powerful motor, but this seems to be quite adequate, and I'm going to pursue with this. It doesn't get warm, I can't feel it's done any work at all while it's been doing those little bits of cutting. Each of the four pulleys have got slightly different arrangements. This one is a straightforward ball bearing race, 2 ball bearing races inside the pulley itself, and the same on this one, and it screws into here, but they're on an eccentric bush, and there's a bush which is you can adjust by putting a steel pin into it and moving it to and fro to be able to move this across to tighten the belt when you've changed the belt, and the same on this one. The pulley on this end on the motor is fixed, that doesn't move, and the pulley on this end is on an arm which adjusts with a screw, and that's the screw that I've used, that adjusts the amount of angle on the pulley at the top. But I've got it, the way I've got it set up now, it tracks absolutely perfectly down the middle of the pulley, so there's no problem with it tracking off to one side or anything. And the pulleys are all lined with rubber so that it gets a grip and doesn't chew up the aluminium, and that's the same arrangement that it has on the Scheppach. It's got rubber linings on the wheels. There's only 24 volts running through here, so I'm not too fussed about making a cover over here, but the swarf doesn't get blown up into this, so I'm not inclined to make anything too dramatically different. If I need to change the belt, I just undo these 3 screws and the cover lifts off the top, and I can then get at the adjustment on the pulley, so I can then get the belt off. So quite a simple thing, and it's made up of 3 pieces of thick aluminium in bands that are all bolted together at this end, so it's very simple to make. And a simple cover which is just angled aluminium, and that seems to provide enough cover to avoid me getting my fingers trapped or doing anything silly. The only disadvantage of all this is it is very heavy. I wouldn't want to be carrying this too far down the workshop. So if I just take this off, those are the brushes underneath. And that's the dovetail slot that the a fine adjustment runs in, which is that. I had a bit of a problem when I finished this, because this surface here would have contacted on the wheel the way I'd originally set it up, so I had to machine that off to avoid it touching, but that's worked fine. So as far as I'm concerned, everything works well. And as you can see, it cuts through very quickly through mild steel or aluminium. Aluminium really needs a little lubrication to cut, although my instructions on my Scheppach bandsaw were not to use any, but a little squirt of WD-40 is not a bad thing to use, I don't think, but not drowning it in it, just a little bit. So that's my Tiny Bandsaw, and it's encouraged me to make some other more difficult workshop tools which Michel's made. He's very clever at doing what he's done, and I'm quite keen to follow some of his designs.